Predict, pick, and prevail in your fantasy football leagues with Nick Giacobbe and Nick Cap. From breakouts to busts, superstars to sleepers, these are the guys that will help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to our Week 3 live show. Welcome to the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we help you prevail today during Week 3 and the rest of the 2022 fantasy football season. I'm your host, Nick Giacobbe. Joining me today every Sunday, 4 times a week, Nick Cap. Nick, how are we feeling today going into Week 3?
I feel good. There's for football games, there's a bunch of fun ones today. I feel like most of the matchups, you have your top dogs versus your top dogs, and your not so top dogs versus your not so top dogs. Especially the Jets, Bengals. You have 2 Super Bowl contenders facing off at MetLife today, so that should be a fun one.
If you want to put it like that, are you going to the game today? I know you're a season.
Yes, I am. I'm going on the field. I'm pulling out the American flag, and I should be able to meet Nick Mangold. It's his retirement.
Wow, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a nice way to start your day before Joe Burrow drops a big fat one.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's your first time listening to us, thank you so much. We do this show 4 times a week, but as for the live show, we do it every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or on Twitter. If you are on Twitter and you have questions, Nick's going to pull up the Twitter if he hasn't already. And for whatever reason, the Twitter feed does not go into our StreamYard feed. That's a StreamYard problem, not an us problem. So if you do have Twitter questions, Nick will ask them on the show. It might be a tiny bit delayed, but he will see it and he'll let me know. We'll answer them on the show for you guys. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, we will see them. Drop your questions in the chat. We love to answer all your questions for the next hour. We're going to be live for about till 9:30. We've got a lot of questions the last 2 weeks. Hey, what's going on, Deshaun? If you have any questions, let us know, guys. We'd love to help you out for the next hour. Flex, start sits, lineup decisions, trades. Should you drop a guy? We'll answer any of your fantasy questions for the next hour, as we do every single Sunday. If you'd like to listen to the show on a weekly basis, we do shows Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Mondays for Monday Night Football, Tuesdays for waiver wires, Thursdays, Thursday Night Football, Fridays your weekend preparation show. We do have a question. I'm going to answer that right now. Let's do it. Deshaun says, should I start Rashad Penny or Gabriel Davis at flex this week? I think I may have answered this question on Twitter. I love Gabriel Davis this week and every single week. The Bills' offense is going to be possibly the number 1 scoring offense this season. If not, they'll be in the top 3 as long as Josh Allen is playing every single game. And Gabriel Davis has a chance to score a touchdown and have 100 yards every single game. The Bills are averaging like 40 points a week or something crazy like that. So there's a lot of balls to go around. There's a lot of points to go around. Gabriel Davis should have a phenomenal season and should have a good Week 3. He was on my boom team last week until the ankle injury. As for Rashad Penny, I'm afraid he's going to be droppable by Week 8. The Seahawks offensive line isn't great. The offense itself isn't great. They have a good matchup against the Falcons. So if you're going to play Penny, this is the week to do it. But Gabriel Davis's ceiling is so high, he has to be started in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gabe Davis is a higher ceiling. This is the perfect matchup for Penny, I feel like. But when you have an alternative like Gabe Davis, I like both this week, but Gabe Davis I think is a must start.
Yep. Thank you for the question, Deshaun. Definitely let us know how that one goes. All right. While we do wait for questions throughout the show, we do go game by game and give you an MVP, a bust, and we give you a sleeper. We also review any injury news or potential things that can affect your lineup. All right. We got another question from Fernando. What's up? Non-PPR. Okay. Should I start CeeDee Lamb, Cortland Sutton, or Rashad Bateman? Can anyone help? So for me, when I see non-PPR for receivers, I'm looking for a guy that has high end zone potential. I see that Monday night game being very low scoring between the Giants and the Cowboys. CeeDee hasn't gotten into the end zone yet. I know Cooper Rush looked a lot better than Dak Prescott did, but I just feel like I just can't trust Cooper Rush. I do like the other 2 quarterback options with Russell Wilson throwing to Cortland Sutton and Lamar Jackson throwing to Rashad Bateman. I don't love the defenses they're facing at all. However, Russell Wilson knows that 49ers defense probably better than anybody. I don't remember the last time he lost to the 49ers. It's been a while. Like, his record against the 49ers is nuts. It's like, I think it's like 19-3 or 19-2 or something like that. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton here. I'm going to let Nick take this one because I think he's going to go Sutton as well. And Deshaun, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for dropping that question. If you have any more throughout the show, we'll answer them. Nick, who are you going here? I'm going Cortland Sutton, though.
I'm going Sutton as well in non-PPR. CeeDee Lamb's primarily productive with Cooper Rush in PPR. He had 7 catches for 75 yards last week. In full PPR, that's great. That's about 15 points. In standard scoring, no PPR, that's only 7.5. So you do need to bank on the touchdown. So for me, it's between Sutton and Bateman. Bill Belichick is phenomenal at taking away your best threat. And the Ravens' best threat through 2 weeks has been the deep ball and the big touchdown. So for me, I'm going to trust Belichick and say he could limit Rashad Bateman, who is the wide receiver, I think 15 to 20, somewhere in that range. And he only has 6 or 7 catches on the year. So if he doesn't catch that big bomb touchdown, he's going to have one of the lowest floors in fantasy football. So I think he has a lot more bust potential, where I think Sutton, clear wide receiver 1, all the other receiving options are coming off injuries this week. He has upside for the big touchdown with Wilson, who seems to have that secondary sort of figured out. And he's got, big yardage plays. I think he's averaging 20 yards per catch, something ridiculously high. He's a perfect guy that you would want in non-PPR formats.
Yeah, my thing with Bateman is, again, Nick mentioned the receptions, and he hasn't gotten a lot of targets either. I think he's very touchdown dependent and deep touchdown dependent. So thank you for that question, Fernando. We're happy we could help. All right, Delusional Tanner. Need 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, and a flex. Half-point PPR. Gabriel Davis, Christian Kirk, A.J. Dillon, James Conner. I'm not sure if you heard our answer to Gabriel Davis. If you didn't join the stream yet, that's okay. We'll talk about it again. Gabriel Davis should be locked into your lineup every single week. Bills' offense is going to score probably the most points in fantasy football this year, or NFL football. They'll probably average like 30 points a week. So with that said, Gabriel Davis is going to have a chance to score a touchdown and have 100 yards every single week. I'm not saying he will. He's not going to have 1,600 yards on the season. However, he has that chance. So with that said, Gabriel Davis should be locked into your lineup every single week. And he's never going to face the number 1 corner either. So I love Gabriel Davis every single week. So there's your receiver. Then you need a flex. Christian Kirk. I busted him last week and I was wrong. I put that on my shoulders, and I think he's earned a spot in your lineup. Doesn't have a bad matchup today. And I think he's going to get a lot of work from Trevor Lawrence. So with that said, he has to be in your lineup every single week. He's earned that privilege in your lineup. So I'm going to go Christian Kirk for your flex. Now I need a running back, and this is half-point PPR. Both running backs are playing at 425. If James Conner is cleared, if he's playing, you'll read the pregame notes. I'm starting James Conner. You drafted him in probably rounds 2 or 3. He was a top 10 running back last year. I know he hasn't started out hot, but that's okay. Still a lot of time to get going. He's the running back 1 on his team. I like A.J. Dillon, but with the way Aaron Jones is playing, Aaron Jones is the alpha guy over there, and Aaron Jones is catching more balls. So I would play James Conner. So for me, I'm going Gabriel Davis in your wide receiver, Christian Kirk in your flex, and James Conner as your running back.
So I agree with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk. My debate comes with A.J. Dillon and James Conner. With it being half PPR, neither of them have much ceiling in the receiving game, so it comes down to who's going to get more work on the ground, which should be Conner, but Dillon did outtouch Aaron Jones in Aaron Jones's monster game last week. And Conner is coming off the injury. He's running right into the brick wall of Bobby Wagner and Aaron Donald. That's concerning for me. I wonder if you have another running back option you could pivot to. It's only down to these 2, I'd take Conner because I know he has more of a guaranteed timeshare on the field. But if you have other options that you could play, I would look to pivot if you could this week.
All right. Thank you for the question. We appreciate that. Another one for Fernando. I got another one. You think Goff will be a good start option this week? Define good. Like, who's your other option? I think he's a fine start option. He's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback on the season, and he's facing a Vikings defense who just gave up a top 10 week to Jalen Hurts, who's also one of the top 10, quarterbacks in fantasy football. But let me tell you some guys I think I would take. I think I would play Jared Goff over. Carson Wentz. I don't like his matchup against Philly. Tua Tagovailoa. I don't like his matchup against Buffalo. I would play Jared Goff over. I might play him over Titans. No, I like Derek Carr's matchup. I was going to say Russell Wilson.
I'm trying to think. Kirk Cousins at the Lions. So which side of the ball would you want in that one?
You have two. He said Tua is his other quarterback, so definitely play Jared Goff over Tua. Goff over Tua, yes. If Tua goes out there and plays really well against Buffalo, then I'll wear that on my head as being wrong. But with that said, last year Tua had 0.5 week 4, and the second game he faced Buffalo, he had like 8 points. I just think it's a bad matchup for Tua, so I would play Goff. As for Goff or Cousins, I think I play Cousins. I think he has the better receiving options.
I'd go with Goff over Tua as well.
Okay. All right. So Delusional Tanner says my other running backs on my roster are Melvin Gordon and Damian Pierce. Is kind of down to those two. Mixon is running back 1. So Nick, you may want to answer this question differently. So his running back 2, his options are AJ Dillon, James Conner, Damian Pierce, and Melvin Gordon. I am gonna go with James Conner still. I would rank these as James Conner, AJ Dillon, Damian Pierce, and then Melvin Gordon. I love Damian Pierce on the season, but until I see that workload, I don't think I could comfortably start him when I think you have better options. I do like AJ Dillon and James Conner, and you drafted them earlier for a reason. So I would still start them.
I do think this is going to be the Damian Pierce breakout week, but I don't know if I would want to start him over Connor this week. I would have Connor. I would have Pierce over Dillon. But last week, Damian Pierce saw 15 touches. Rex Burkhead, who was the RB1 on the team in week 1, saw 0 carries. So I do think Damian Pierce is going to have a week 3 breakout. I just don't know if I would trust it over James Conner with his guaranteed workload, the amount of touchdowns he had last year. Kyler Murray is going to find a way to cook that secondary in the second half. So for me, I like Damian Pierce, but I don't think I would like him enough to play him over Connor. So I'd say just go with Connor this week, but don't be surprised if Pierce outscores him on your bench.
Yep, I'm exactly where you are. And if Pierce does outscore Connor on your bench, don't hit yourself over the head. It just means you have a really solid option going forward. That's all. You play your stars. It's still week 3. Thank you, Fernando. We appreciate that. We love a sub, a like. We do the show again 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and the live shows every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you for that. Best of luck in your matchups. And if you have any other questions this week or next week, we'll help you with that. One more for Deshaun. And Deshaun, you can ask as many as you like. We're free for the next hour. Got one more. Do I risk it with Herbert or go with Cousins? I think I saw this one on Twitter as well, and I would go with Cousins. The report that I saw from Herbert earlier, and we'll talk about this, is that he's deciding if he wants to take the injection in his ribs that Tyrod Taylor took that would allow him to play the game. It's a pain-freeing, like numbing, I guess, injection in his ribs. And that's just to see if he's actually going to play or not, to numb the pain. So that tells me that he can't play without that shot. And Herbert's playing in the later window. If Tua was your other quarterback or somebody, I'd say maybe go pick up Cooper Rush just to have a safety net. But I really like Cousins. He played horribly Monday night. He burned me. He lost me a matchup. But he has a great matchup against the Lions. He just gave up a top 5 fantasy week to Carson Wentz, then a top 5 fantasy week to Jalen Hurts, and then Carson Wentz. So Cousins should have the better matchup. They just got walloped on Monday night, which to me in NFL terms means they should come out guns blazing today. They still have a top 5, top 10 offense in the league with Jefferson and Thielen and Cook. So I would go with Cousins. I just think that's the play here.
Yeah, so there's hoodie Carmelo Anthony, there's flu game Jordan, and then there's 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins has a 1 o'clock game against the Lions, that's a guy you lock into your lineup.
All right, another one from Fernando. All right, we can answer more. I know you said Gabe Davis is a must start, but in full PPR, him or Drake London.
One. I like this one.
What do you have any other receiver you could bench for Drake London? Because I love Drake London's matchup against my Seattle Seahawks. But
I like this question.
But Gabriel Davis is on the best offense in the NFL. I know he's the wide receiver too, but when you're on the best offense in the NFL, to me, you're like a top 10, 15 fantasy wide receiver. And I just don't know if Drake London gets there. Kyle Pitts is still looming. He hasn't broken out yet, but he will. It's like when George R. R. Martin's going to write his next book. Like, it's coming. Like, it is. Just can't tell you when. I'm going Gabriel Davis here. The offense is too good. I have to go Gabriel Davis. And thanks for the questions in the chat, guys. We'll answer them in a second. We got you guys.
That's tough. I like both.
He has Deontay Johnson,
you have a
but he
great
left him at
problem.
flex. My other so his receivers are stacked. He's got Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp,
loaded.
Gabriel Davis, and Drake London. Man, Fernando, you got to play the matchups every single week. I don't think you played this one wrong at all, but every week just play these matchups because you're gonna have awesome chances this season. So
go with Gabe Davis. That
Yeah.
Miami's team is up very
Yeah.
high, and that defense let up a lot of big bombs.
yeah, go with Gabriel Davis. But if Drake London outscores him on your bench, don't be upset about it. You have a great option, and every week you're gonna have this game you're gonna play with yourself. Thank you, Deshaun. We appreciate that. Hope to see you here every week, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. From John Wills. I think you know this guy, Nick.
I have no clue who this man is.
No idea, man. Must be. All right. Kirk Cousins or Lamar Jackson. I like this one. Lamar has a really tough matchup, but he's the quarterback 1 on the year, so you have to play Lamar. But I could see Kirk Cousins outscoring him. But you have to play Lamar. You can't bench Lamar for Kirk Cousins.
I actually want to check if I'm playing him this week, and that'll determine my answer. No, I'm not playing him. You cannot bench Lamar, even though you have Kirk Cousins in a 1:00 game, which is, Jordan-esque. I think you have to play Lamar. You have to trust him. You have to trust that rushing game, even though I don't like the matchup with the Patriots.
All right. From RJ, Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins this week. Man, they both have good matchups. I would play Matt Stafford, though. Matt Stafford's going up against the Cardinals team that's given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks, I believe, to the start of the season. They're top 3 for sure. Matt Stafford was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He was 10 last week. So he was right on the cusp. He was a top 10 quarterback last week. Yeah, they're both really good matchups. I think I would play Matt Stafford, though.
Yes.
Better defensive matchup, and I think he has better weapons than Cousins.
Yeah, Stafford's my sleeper of the week.
All right. Can I block this user because I'm just getting C's? All right. We'll start going game by game now because we have a breaking questions. But if you guys have questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll continue answering them for the entirety of the show. Texans at the Bears. Only note I have here is that Dameon Pierce is expected to get more work. Head coach Lovie Smith did say that he's the only running back that's finishing runs on the team. Who's your MVP, your sleeper, and your bust for this game?
MVP would be David Montgomery. I know he's one of your starts of the week. He had a very good week last week, and now he goes up against a vulnerable Texans defense. I like that play. My bust would be pretty much every receiving option for the Bears, which is just Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. I have not seen enough from Justin Fields. I don't see enough from the coaching staff trusting him. Through 2 weeks, he has 28 passing attempts. The first game came in a monsoon where you could blame it on that, but he had 17 passing attempts in that game, 11 last week in a game where they were playing from behind all night. So I do not trust those Bears receiving options, just like the coaches do not trust Justin Fields yet. And my sleeper would be Dameon Pierce. I think week 3 is typically when you see the rookies start to break out. That's where you saw Justin Jefferson have his monster week. I remember Nick dropped him after week 1 and picked him up after week 3.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget how much he fell at the start and picked up in week 3. That's your typical boom week from these guys. That's where you know if these rookies are going to be good plays for the rest of the season. So I think this is the week for Dameon Pierce.
I think you kind of nailed it. My MVP will also be David Montgomery. My bust on the week will be either quarterback. He shouldn't actually no Cole Kmet. I said he's going to be bust on the week, and he had 0 receptions last week. So please don't start Cole Kmet. There has to be better options out there for you. My sleeper is actually going to be, I guess Dameon Pierce is a sleeper. I think you're right on that one. He should break out today. Raiders at Titans. Here are the notes we got here. Josh Jacobs had an illness and he missed the last 2 days of practice. He didn't fly with the team on Friday, but then they did fly him out on Saturday, which leads me to believe he's going to play. They didn't fly him out initially because they didn't want him to infect the other players. So that leads me to believe he's going to play. Hunter Renfrow has a concussion. He is out. Who is your MVP, your bust, and your sleeper?
MVP, Devontae Adams. I know I've said it. I've pounded the desk about it. His ceiling or his floor is so much lower than it was with Aaron Rodgers. You saw it last week with 2 catches, but going up against the Titans defense, that should not be a problem. No Hunter Renfrow. All the ball should be heading him and Darren Waller's way. My bust of the week is going to be Derrick Henry. We have not seen enough workload. We have not seen enough in the passing game. Every team is stacking the box because there is no legitimate threat at the wide receiver position over there. So I'm not trusting it yet. I'm not trusting Derrick Henry. I wouldn't bench him yet, but next week I wouldn't be surprised if he was benched in a lot of leagues. And my sleeper, maybe Treylon Burks, because I think the Titans are going to play from behind. Like I said, week 3 is typically your rookie breakout week, and he looks like he's a clear-cut wide receiver one over there. So I think Burks has a lot of upside against a vulnerable Raiders defense.
I think I'm right there with you. Another one I want to mention is Darren Waller. The Titans they've been really bad against wide receivers, and Darren Waller basically plays like a wide receiver. So I think Waller could end up being a big MVP for you today if you drafted him around 5 or 6. Another one, Derek Carr. Again, the Titans have been really, really bad. They just gave like 45 points to Josh Allen. So I think Derek Carr could have a really good game for you if you have a streaming option, or I'm benching Russell Wilson for Derek Carr. So if you have an option like that, I would play Derek Carr. My bust on the week, until I see it from Derrick Henry, like, to me, Derrick Henry's the guy you drafted, think you were getting 20 plus 25 a week, and you're just not seeing that yet. Now, he does have a better matchup against the Raiders defense, but still, I need to see it. I do like your sleeper option with Treylon Burks. Not for fantasy purposes, but that backup quarterback over on Tennessee, I think, is a sleeper to see if he actually plays.
Okay.
To see if he plays a bit today, because Tannehill has not looked good throughout the season. You are not starting him in any fantasy league, just to be clear, but that's an NFL sleeper. All right, another question from John. Javonte Williams against San Francisco D, Penny against Atlanta D, Darrell Henderson versus Rams D. You can only pick one. You drafted Javonte Williams.
Darrell Henderson plays for the Rams, Mr. John Wells. So unfortunately, he will not be facing the Rams defense.
You're right. You drafted Javonte Williams in your first 3 rounds. I think you just have to play him every single week. I know we disappointed a little bit in week 2 in a very favorable matchup, but with all the little controversy surrounding Nathaniel Hackett and his ridiculously bad play calling and game time decisions, I think that Javonte Williams just has to get going. He needs a couple receptions. He should have close to 100 yards. I know it's a tough matchup against San Francisco, but he has to be the bell kill of his team. I play Javonte Williams every single week.
Yeah, I would play Javonte, but I think both are other good options. So if you're not comfortable with him going up against San Fran, I think you could pivot to either and you wouldn't have a problem.
Yep, totally agree. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs at the Colts. Michael Pittman missed week 2 with a really great matchup, and probably part of the reason they lost 24-0. Missed week 2 with a quad injury. He's going to play. I think he practiced the entirety of the week. Alec Pierce, who hasn't gotten going yet, but that's another receiving option for Matt Ryan, had a concussion. He cleared protocol. Juju Smith-Schuster popped up on the injury report with a shoulder injury. He is good to go. Who do you got?
So I'll go. So MVP, it's going to be my MVP every week where the Chiefs play. It's Travis Kelce. He is the clear-cut wide receiver one on the one of the top 3 offenses in football. He is the biggest lineup advantage that you can have at any position. So Kelce will always be my MVP in this situation. My bust, and I heard this on another fantasy show. If I showed you Juju Smith-Schuster's stat line last week and I said his name was Nelson Aguilar, he would have winded up on your waiver wire. The point being that Juju is kind of riding off name, and Patrick Mahomes was not lying when he said we are spreading the ball here. The ball is going to go every which way. So you're not going to see a lot of these boom weeks, or the boom receiver will rotate. So my bust is going to be, in general, Chiefs wide receivers, because I don't know which one's going to boom. And if I had to bet between Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, MVS, Juju, 4 very good NFL players, the odds are 3 of them are going to be a bust this week. And for the Colts side of the ball, my sleeper is going to be Alec Pierce. We heard a lot of hype about him in training camp. He got a concussion early on. Week 1, missed week 2. And you saw a significant lack of the passing game last week against Jacksonville. Matt Ryan's going to have to get that going. He's never struggled between the 20s. And with Pittman back out on the field, Alec Pierce assuming the wide receiver 2 role, he should see a massive jump in workload.
All right, we got another question. I don't know how to say your name, so I apologize for that. I don't want to mess it up. He says, hello. Tyler Higbee, Juju Smith-Schuster, who we're talking about now, or Allen Robinson. Please pick 2 for the flex. I also have Kupp. Is it smart to start all 3 Rams? That's a great question, because I like all 3 Rams this week. So let's start with this. Cooper Kupp, like he 100% starts in your lineup no matter the matchup. If he was facing the 85 Bears, I would still put Cooper Kupp in my lineup. You have to lock in Tyler Higbee. Let's start with that. Well, actually, who's your tight end? Why is Tyler Higbee not starting at your tight end? Could you please drop that in the chat? Because I'm curious. Because unless you have like Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, I think I would start Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee's had has the most receptions for any tight end throughout the league. Second most receptions on the Rams, only behind Cooper Kupp. That means a lot of balls are coming his way, a lot of PPR points, and a lot of touchdown upside. Kyle Pitts.
Send Pitts to the bench. Start these three.
Yeah, Pitts is a really good matchup this week, and you drafted him early. But, like, he hasn't shown you a reason to give him confidence. So, if you are comfortable benching Pitts, knowing that he could score a lot today, like he can. Like, he has a great matchup against Seattle. This is the week for Kyle Pitts to break out. So, I'm just gonna lay it all out there for you. The safer play for me is Tyler Higbee at your tight end, Allen Robinson in your flex, and Juju in your flex. Allen Robinson had more targets last week. He should have had 2 touchdowns. I think Allen Robinson gets a lot of work and should be locked into most lineups. Juju's going to be the wide receiver 1 over there. Are they going to spread the ball around? Yes, but I still like starting Juju most weeks. Like I just said, Tyler Higbee leads all tight ends. He's more than Kelce, more than Mark Andrews, more receptions than all those guys right now. Starting all 3 Rams is risky because you're counting on the Rams to score 40 points, but they can against a Cardinals defense who's not very good. So with that said, I would very much consider benching Kyle Pitts. So this is a choice you're going to have to make. If you're comfortable benching Pitts, knowing that he can score more points, knowing that you could potentially regret it, but Tyler Higbee has more upside, then yes, I would do it. Now, if you want to keep Pitts in, let me give you an answer for that. If I'm only starting 2, I don't love starting tight ends in flex. As much as I love Tyler Higbee's matchup, I just feel like tight ends in general can be touchdown dependent. So I would start Allen Robinson and Juju over Higbee. But then when it comes to your tight end, I might start Higbee over Pitts. If I gave you a blind resume for both, you would start Higbee. Kyle Pitts is riding on his name as a second-year player.
I agree with Nick. I would not want to start 2 tight ends. I would bench Pitts personally, but I don't love having to stack 3 Rams receiving options.
Yeah.
So that becomes the bigger question mark. So if it were up to me and you wanted to keep Kyle Pitts in, you wanted a bank, you still trust him, then I would bench Allen Robinson. Okay. I don't like playing the 2 tight ends, but like Nick said, the second receiving option on the team, second most targets on the team, most receptions in the league at the tight end position. It's very hard to find a stud like that late in drafts. And honestly, to me, out of all 4 of those players, Higbee has shown me the most guaranteed workload and the most guaranteed target share in an offense. So Higbee, to me, out of those 4 guys, would be the biggest must start. So for me, Pitts would almost be the flex play between the other 2 then.
All right. Interesting. Thanks for the question. That was a really good one. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for the Chiefs and Colts game, my MVP, it's going to be big old Jonathan Taylor, who had a really dud of a game last week. Chiefs have given up the 11th most points to running backs to start the season. Austin Eckler looked good last week. I think the game script will be much better for Taylor this week. Michael Pittman will be back. Alec Pierce should be back. Matt Ryan should be able to actually throw the ball. With that said, it's going to open up the running lanes for Jonathan Taylor. You're welcome. We really do try to help you guys. And that was a very tough question. So I know I could be wrong with my answer on that one. It's really, really tough, but you got a lot of good options over there. We do try our best. So Jonathan Taylor should be the guy that you drafted number 1 overall this week. He'll be your MVP. As for a bust, every Chiefs wide receiver not named Juju. I just can't comfortably start them unless you're in like a 14 or 16 man league and you need to start MVS. I just feel like there's so many better options that are solidified wide receiver 1s or 2s on their teams. As for a sleeper option, I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I don't think is getting enough love so far. The Colts defense allowed some points to James Robinson last week. Week 1, I know they had the Texans, but in terms of running backs so far on the 2022 season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the RB5, and Nick knew that faster than I did. And I hate saying he's a sleeper, but he's not getting enough love. Nobody's talking about him. I know his snap share isn't great, and I think it's McKinnon's taking some of those red zone looks, but still, That's why I think he's a sleeper, and I would start.
I
Edwards
want to change real quick. I'm going to switch off Alec Pierce to Clyde because I forgot. I said he's one of my sleepers of the week at the running back position. And just to quickly add on, Andy Reid loves efficiency, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is averaging 8.7 yards per attempt that is on the ground and in the air. So his workload should see increased with his efficiency going up. This is actually a very weird line. I think if I had to pick for actual football, I think the Colts might actually upset the Chiefs this week. Just an
interesting
note for you.
I do have to pick for my spread pool. We're going to be live for the next 30 minutes, guys. Keep asking those questions. We'll keep answering them. From Vincent, DK Metcalf has been a bust. Shall I drop or trade? All right, Vincent, this is a great week to talk about DK Metcalf because this is your DK Metcalf week. First off, you do not drop DK Metcalf this season. He would have to be really, really, really bad to drop him this season. And I don't think he had a terrible week 1. I think he had like 11 points or something like that, if I'm right. Against Denver. Let me see. How many points did he have week 1? He had 8. Okay. Didn't have the best week. He did have 7 targets though. So here's what I like to look at, Vincent. The Seahawks are not going to score a lot of points. They're not going to have a great offense. And you knew that going into the season, and you knew that drafting DK Metcalf. So don't hit the panic button. He's going to have these low weeks, and he's going to have to ride your bench a bunch of weeks. But when he's facing the Falcons defense, you play DK Metcalf. Look at what the Falcons have done over 2 weeks. Week 1, Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry over 15 fantasy points, and Chris Olave over 10. 3 wide receivers went over double digits against the Falcons week 1. Week 2, Jahan Dotson had a touchdown. Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel both went over double-digit fantasy points. I think Jahan Dotson might have as well. We may have had back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he had 2 touchdowns.
We had back-to-back weeks with 3 wide receivers going up against the Falcons scoring double-digit fantasy points. If DK Metcalf is going to have a top 15, top 10 fantasy week, this is the defense to do it against. And if he has a good week, then that's a good time to trade him. If you really don't feel confident in him, and I wouldn't, that's why I didn't draft him. Trade him after this week if he has like 20 plus points. You may be able to package him with somebody else. You may not get the value you want in return, but this is the week he's going to excel, and this is the week that you would trade him right after. That's when his value is probably going to be at the highest. You just don't bench him. He's too talented. He still has the upside to go out there and score 20 plus fantasy points most weeks. So what do you say to this one?
Completely agree with everything you said.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Vincent. I know it's a tough one, so we appreciate it. Bateman is my flex at 1 p.m. from John Wells. Do I bench him and wait to see if Keenan Allen plays? If not, then switch to Henderson versus Arizona. I like that one. Don't love Keenan Allen on the season, but you drafted him in your top 4 rounds. He's still a stud. I think you bench Bateman and wait on Keenan Allen. I think he's good to go. The report that I have noted in our notes from Schefter overnight says Keenan Allen hamstring is questionable. He should play, or is expected to play, whatever Schefter said. So bench Bateman for Keenan Allen. If for some reason he's not playing, then yes, swap Henderson and make sure you have your flex spots situated over there.
Completely agree. The one thing Belichick has always done is take away your best option, and the best option for the Ravens all year has been the deep pass ball. So Bateman's riding off. I think he's a top 20 receiver right now, and I think he only has 6 or 7 catches on the year. Belichick's going to shut that down. He's not going to allow that deep ball to happen. And if it does, it's not guaranteed to go to Bateman. Duvernay has the deep touchdowns on the year. I think Mark Andrews had a touchdown over 20 yards. So they're going to spread the ball there in Baltimore. I would look to bench Bateman, and I think you have 2 other good options to pivot to.
All right. I just got a text message from a friend of mine. And if you have me or Nick's numbers, text us for questions. He says to me, my friend Tom, he goes, DJ Moore, AJ Dillon, Tony Pollard. I need to pick one for my flex. This is tough. Like, this is why we're doing the show, to answer these tough questions, but this is tough. And I have DJ Moore on my bust team. Last year, he scored 12 points against the Saints in week 2. And then he scored, I think, 6 points or 7 points in week 16. Is his quarterback situation any better? I don't think so. They do have McCaffrey, but does that open up the field more, or does that give him less receptions? With that said, the Saints coach, I believe, was the defensive coordinator for a couple of years. So this isn't like a Sean Payton thing. So I don't love that. Bucks have a tough matchup against AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon has a tough matchup against the Bucks. And as for Tony Pollard, I think the Giants have been tough on running backs too.
They shut down Derrick Henry.
Yeah, but I don't know how good Derrick Henry and the Titans team is per se. McCaffrey had a good week last week. I think I'm kind of leaning Tony Pollard on Monday night. I don't love it, but I would say your safe floor play is DJ Moore because you drafted him. You know he's going to get receptions. I know he's only had 6 in each game, but I still think he's going to get the most targets and receptions on that team. If you want a safe play, I'll go DJ Moore. If you want a low floor, high ceiling, go Tony Pollard. He had a touchdown last week. He looked like the better running back. He got a couple catches. I think he could play like a poor man's McCaffrey, the way that McCaffrey played against the Giants last week. So I personally would say, if you're just flexing, go for the upside with Tony Pollard.
This is so tough because the question is, do you trust DJ Moore against Marshawn Lattimore? I haven't seen anything to say I could trust DJ Moore or Baker Mayfield this year, so I feel like I can't. Do I trust A.J. Dillon, who is the supposed wide receiver 2 on his team, or RB2 on his team, but out-touched Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones was much more efficient, looked a lot better in the offense, and now they have to play the best defense in the league in Tampa Bay? Or do you play Tony Pollard against the Giants? I don't want to lean and agree with Nick here, but I don't like any of the 3 options there. I think there's such low floor on all 3 of them. You just need one of them to hit the end zone. And if I had to bet on one of them hitting the end zone, it would probably be Tony Pollard. So I will ride with Nick on that.
I'll call us out. Per sources, he both drafted bad teams on a stream here a few weeks ago. I thought I had a great draft. My team looks really crappy right now because I took a running back over a receiver round 1. So I will hold myself accountable for that. The team was not great that I drafted, but it's okay. Week 3, not super worried. All my other teams are doing great at the moment. Another question from Deshaun, 16-man league. Who do I flex this week? I love this. I don't do a 16-man, so I love this. Greg Dortch, Matt Collins with Renfro out, or Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker to me is just like you're going to get 2 games over 20 points during the season. Matt Collins, I just don't love the option over there. I like Greg Dortch, though. I think he had 10 targets last week going up against a Rams team where Ramsey might be shadowing Hollywood Brown. And the Rams have given up the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers through the first 2 weeks. Drake London had 25 last week. I'm going to go with Greg Dortch. You probably picked him up off your waiver wire, maybe not in a 16-man, but I would go with Greg Dortch for this one. Yep,
I completely agree.
From your brother, with Judy in, Judy's not in yet. How do you think he and Sutton will stack versus the 49ers? I think one's going to go off and one's not. That's kind of how Russell Wilson 49er games are. One will always boom, one will always bust. I'm not convinced Judy's going to play, and if he does, I think he's more of a decoy. I'm liking Sutton a lot more this
year. He's officially active.
Is he?
I think so.
When was that official? Because the report that I have from Schefter here was expected to play, but will test it pregame.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure I saw last night.
Then let's assume that he's active. I still think he's more of a decoy, and I would play Cortland Sutton. I'm not saying the bench Judy, but that's a tough matchup.
It's a very tough matchup. I would play Sutton. I think Sutton's a bigger threat over there. I think he's a more talented wide receiver. I think he's the one that's going to give the best upside of the deep ball, which is Russell Wilson's best friend.
All right. From Sky Empire. Who do I start at flex? Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf, Allen Lazard, or Mecole Hardman? I'll make this easy to start off. Let's take out Hardman. Don't like Chiefs wide receivers not named Juju. Let's take out Lazard because I just don't really like Packers wide receivers at the moment. And I think you have more upside with the other 2. Adam Thielen, I think he's good for a touchdown today. He's just a red zone machine. He had like 12 or 14 last year. He always gets in the end zone, it feels like. He hasn't gotten in yet this year. This feels like the week against the Lions. As for DK Metcalf, just spoke about him, but I'll repeat what I said just in case you weren't in the stream. This is the week to play DK Metcalf. Going up against the Falcons defense that has allowed 3, not 1, not 2, 3 wide receivers in back-to-back weeks to score double-digit fantasy points. They give up the most points to wide receivers, I believe. They're top 2 or 3. So DK should have a great week. This is the week to play DK. I give DK a slight edge over Thielen because of the better matchup and because he's the wide receiver 1. However, Thielen's not a bad matchup at all. If you trust Thielen more, play Thielen.
This is a good one. So I think Hardman's the one I'd instantly not do. I would want to see what Devontae Adams did against against the Buccaneers last year, because Lazard is going to be the only trusted option out there with Sammy Watkins being out. But I agree with Nick. Thielen and DK have massive upside in this matchup. I think all 3 of those guys are good plays. I think Lazard will demand the highest target share, but will have the least upside of the touchdowns. Thielen has the most touchdown upside, but will not see as many receptions or targets as the other 2. And then DK, I think, is the happy medium of has a good upside for touchdown, good reception workload. So I'll make it kind of complex. If you're in half PPR, I would go with DK. If you're in standard, no PPR, Thielen. If you're in full PPR, I would go with Lazard.
Thank you for the question. We do appreciate that. We appreciate you, Deshaun. We appreciate all of you asking questions. We're live for another 20, 25 minutes or so answering your questions. From OSG, this is an interesting one. Got offered Breece Hall, DeAndre Hopkins, Jeff Wilson, and Jalen Hurts for Justin Herbert, A.J. Dillon, DJ Moore, and Sterling Shepard in full PPR. I kind of want to know who are your other receivers? Can you drop like one or two receivers you have on your roster? Or even if you want, if you have Twitter, text us your lineup. Text us your lineup at PrimeTimeFFPod on Twitter. If you have Twitter, that would help. But my instant thought is I think I would do it. I think Hurts finishes above Justin Herbert, so you're getting an upgrade at quarterback. Jeff Wilson and A.J. Dillon to me are about the same player at the moment, except Jeff Wilson's the number one and should have more upside. DeAndre Hopkins, he has Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams. Do this trade because you're gonna have DeAndre Hopkins on your bench, and he should have assumed the wide receiver one role in 4 weeks. And I'm not a Jet guy at all, but you know what? Breece Hall's looking pretty decent, and the rookies tend to get better as the season goes along. Breece Hall's worst we've probably already seen. I think he's only going to get better. So I think I would do this trade. If you got offered it, I think I would accept it right now. Get Herbert off your team and start Jalen Hurts today. Accept that trade right now, I would say, and then fix your lineup. If you can't accept it yet, then that's a different story. But I would accept it now.
So I think Hurts, like just 1 for 1. Just think about this real quick. Hurts for Herbert, I think it's a pretty even trade. I think Hurts gives you such a higher ceiling with that rushing upside. A.J. Dillon will assume the running back one workload halfway through the year. He already is seeing it compared to Jeff Wilson, who will be benched when Elijah Mitchell gets back fully healthy. DJ Moore for D-Hop. I'd take D-Hop every day and all day. So then it's Shepard and Breece Hall. And as Nick has told me, Shepard will probably be dropped in most leagues by the time week 6 or week 8 hits. So I agree with Nick. I would take the trade. I think gives you a lot more upside for these next couple weeks. And then by the end of the year, Breece Hall could assume a top 15 running back finish.
And let us know how that goes. Let us know if you could actually complete that trade before kickoff today. All right, another one from Fernando. Should I run with Kamara or Javonte Williams in full PPR? Why not both? Who's your other running back and who's your flex? Man, these are probably the two guys that you drafted in rounds 1 and 2, I would think, unless it's a keeper league. So before I know you're probably still watching, drop your other running backs or flex options in the chat just so we could fully answer this, because to me, they should both be starting in your lineup. And then we'll come back to your question. From Sky Empire again, over these 3, who would you start? Darrell Henderson, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson.
That's easy. Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, I think we're going Darrell Henderson. I still like Etienne on the season, but I would go with Darrell Henderson. I think he's still the running back 1 over there. If he gets overtaken by Cam Akers today, then that's a little bit of a problem, but go with Darrell Henderson for now. Another one from OSG. Do I start Treylon Burks and flex for the time of Hopkins being out, or Wilson or Breece? Wilson, I'm assuming, is the Jets receiver, right? What's his first name?
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I'm assuming he means Garrett Wilson. So I would start Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson, depending on the matchup. If they're facing a tough cornerback, then start Breece Hall. If they're facing a tough rushing defense, then start Garrett Wilson. I would play the matchups and play whichever Jet, because I haven't seen. Oh, Jeff Wilson. Okay, so Jeff Wilson, Breece Hall, or Treylon Burks, the guys he's trading for. So if we're talking just today, right? Let's just talk just today for the moment. I think your best matchup is Breece Hall. Tony Pollard at 20-plus points against the Bengals last week. Breece Hall can catch a bunch of balls, and so can Michael Carter. I think Breece Hall is your best matchup today. Haven't seen enough from Treylon Burks. Going forward, play the matchups. Treylon Burks should get more work today, and if he does, and then you can decide week to week. I love Jeff Wilson on the season. I really do. I think he's going to have a lot of rushing attempts, a lot of rushing upside, nobody breathing down his neck. So you got to play the matchups. We can help you answer the question every week. But for today, I think I would go Breece Hall, then Jeff Wilson, then Treylon Burks.
I agree
accepted
with
it, by
Nick.
the way. He accepted it. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
The fact, and if Herbert doesn't play today, like, you just shipped off a guy that may not play today. Like that's a thing. Good trade. So I would start Breece Hall today then.
I agree with Nick. I'd start Brees, and then you're just playing the matchup each and every week. So make sure you're here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m., and we can help you out with that question.
Okay. So Fernando's in an 8-man league. He has Aaron Jones starting as his running back one, and he flexed Deontay Johnson. So what he's basically saying is he could choose 2 running backs, Kamara, Javonte Williams, or Aaron Jones.
So Aaron Jones, I think, is the lock. I would bench Kamara. I haven't seen enough from him. I think there's a lot more aging and a lot less talent than we're seeing. Jameis Winston has no history of checking down to running backs. His major workload came in the passing game in his prime years of his career. And the Saints play the Panthers, who are actually a pretty good defense so far through 2 weeks. So I would play Javonte. I would have to trust him. I trust the talent there. I trust the passing game. He had the most targets for a running back after week 1, I think, with 12. I don't remember his workload last week. But Javante's getting such a large portion of the offense, and he's seeing a lot of efficient touches with it. So I'd roll with Javonte here.
All right. I agree with Nick. Let's go with Javonte here. We need to see more from Kamara. All right. We have a lot of questions. We're going to keep answering them, guys. Another 20 minutes or so. Thank you guys for all the questions. We appreciate that. We really do. From Stanley, start Rashad Bateman or Cortland Sutton in flex PPR leagues 10-man team. Sutton. This is such an easy one. Sutton should get a lot of workload. He's Russell Wilson's new DK Metcalf. Rashad Bateman has a really tough matchup against the Patriots. I think he's touchdown or bust. I would go with Sutton, especially in a PPR league.
Completely agree.
All right. From Brandon Jacobs. Even if Josh Jacobs plays, do I play Dameon Pierce over him? Let's answer that one first. Then he has a second question. I haven't seen enough from Dameon Pierce. He's still a rookie. I don't think the Texans are a good football team. I need to see more from him. I think I have Dameon Pierce on 2 leagues myself. I'm benching him until I see him post double-digit fantasy points once. I know that Josh Jacobs can do that. He hasn't gotten in the end zone yet. He hasn't looked bad at all. His yards per carry is good. His rushing numbers are okay. He just hasn't gotten into the end zone. That's not a Josh Jacobs problem. They haven't gotten down to the goal line. That's a Raiders problem. That's a Raiders problem that should be fixed pretty soon. And has a great matchup today. So I would start Josh Jacobs over Dameon Pierce.
I agree. I'd start Jacobs over Pierce, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pierce outscored him today. As I've been saying all show, your rookies, your week 3, that's the breakout week. If they're on your bench and they boom, that means you just have another good option on your team. So don't panic or don't be upset if he doesn't have a good week. And don't panic and be upset if he has a great week. Like, it's what it is. But Jacobs looks like the more talented running back. He's pretty much a 3-down back, and he looks healthy. He looks good to go. And if that offense wants to play him, they're going to score a lot more points as the season goes on. They'll have a lot more touchdown upside.
You're welcome, Stanley. Thanks for joining. You're welcome, Fernando. Thanks for joining in for all the questions. We do this show 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those are not streamed. Those are on all our audio streaming platforms, including to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc. So make sure you subscribe to that on any podcasting platform. The shows also drop on YouTube, so make sure to follow that YouTube channel, PrimeTimeFFPod, subscribe, and watch the shows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and the live streams are every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Brandon, to answer your second question, he's got a flex play, and he has this one too. So for his flex, he could play Dameon Pierce, Corey Davis, Russell Gage, or Devin Singletary. I don't like Singletary. He doesn't score. Josh Allen scores from the goal line, although I do love the offense. I just don't really like the Bucs receivers either. It's a situation where I don't know who's going to score. I don't see a lot of guaranteed workload. Nick loves Corey Davis. I don't love Corey Davis because I feel like he's the wide receiver 3 on that team. I know he's not playing like the wide receiver 3, but I want somebody who I think gets me guaranteed workload. And I think Dameon Pierce gets a little bit more guaranteed workload today against a bad Bears defense that just allowed 120 yards to Aaron Jones. I would flex Dameon Pierce today and play Josh Jacobs as your running back too.
If you had to predict, would the Jets have another 50 passing attempts today because they're in another game script that calls for them to pass the ball?
No, low scoring game. Bengals aren't scoring enough points. It's a low scoring game.
Week 1 against the Ravens, it was 24-9, the final score, and Flacco managed to throw 50 times. So even if it is a low scoring game, that's the workload that he's giving. So for me, because of game script alone, Corey Davis is going to see a massive target share. This is where I would play Corey Davis. I'm playing him in one of my leagues, so I'm riding with you, Brandon, on this one.
All right. From Vincent, another question. Zay Jones with the Jags or Valdez Scantling or Jarvis Landry New Orleans start at flex. What's your best option? I think my gut is to lean Landry. What are you feeling here?
I don't know. This is a tough one.
I think
I would take Zay out of that because I don't trust him in Jacksonville. I think Kirk's the clear one there. I think they'd use ETN if they could more in the passing game than Zay Jones. And they already have James Robinson.
Yeah, there's other mouths to feed. I mean, Evan Ingram gets a lot of targets. Marvin Jones gets a lot of targets. So I think I would take Zay Jones out of there for sure.
So that's MVS or Jarvis.
I'm trying to look up what his target share was last week. I'm pulling it up right now. I know it was a tough matchup against the Bucs. I mean, last year Jarvis Landry still had 5 targets and he had like 9 week 1. I would go with Jarvis Landry. Jameis is going to swing the ball around. I don't love Carolina's defense as much as Nick does. I would go with Jarvis Landry. I think Valdez-Scantling is either big player bust or touchdown or bust, and I think Landry has a chance to get you some PPR points. Assuming this is a PPR league, I would go with Jarvis Landry.
Yep, completely agree.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. Thank you, guys. John Wells says Noah Brown or Rashad Bateman, and Nick, don't mention Belichick. Man, Nick loves Belichick. This one I'll go with Rashad Bateman. Talent exceeds the other one at this point. Bateman still has a lot of talent and has a chance to get into the end zone as much as I don't like the matchup.
I don't know, Nick. I might have to take the other side on this one. Noah Brown, he's the third down receiver. He is Cooper Rush's most trusted player on the big plays. I actually heard about this the other day. Noah Brown and Cooper Rush were on the practice squad for 2 or 3 years together. So the most trust Cooper Rush has in any receiver is Noah Brown. The guy he has the most chemistry with is Noah Brown. If I don't know Michael Gallup's status for the game, do you know if he's playing or not?
I think he's playing. I don't think they've officially announced it. I think he's questionable or something, but I think he's playing.
So if Michael Gallup is in, then you definitely have to bench Brown, but I don't think you'll know till tomorrow. So I guess I would ride with Bateman here. If they both played at the same time and I knew Gallup was out, I would go with Brown, though.
All right. Sky Empire again. Would you start the Bengals defense or Chargers? Start the Chargers defense. As much as like ragging on Nick's Jets, Joe Flacco has posted some good fantasy numbers so far. I think he's good for a pick today, but Trevor's looked good through the first few weeks, but the Chargers defense is loaded. They have Joey Bosa. They have who's the defensive end they have over there?
Mack.
They have Khalil Mack. They have Derwin James, who's playing out of his mind, like the best defensive player in the league right now. Play the Chargers defense. They should get you a couple sacks today.
I agree with you. I don't love either option, but I would play the Chargers because they're more talented.
From HR, Dameon Pierce, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire full PPR format. Play Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Top 5 running back on the season so far. Outplaying his ADP. Play Clyde for sure. All right, no more questions at the moment. We'll keep on running through the rest of these games until it's time for us to get out of here. And we'll keep answering your questions for the next 8 minutes. Lions at Vikings. Swift's ankle says he should play. Who do you got? MVP bust and sleeper.
MVP Jay Jettas with Kirk Cousins, the two of them going up against the Lions at 1:00. That is a filthy duo. My bust on the week. I don't know if I have one. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't know who I would choose to fade here. Everybody should have a very solidified workload that you would want to start. And I guess my sleeper would be Adam Thielen because I think there's a lot of upside in him seeing the end zone. I think the Vikings will post 30-plus points this week against the Lions, who have allowed, I think, the second or third most points per game in the league. I think that would – I would just say play your Vikings and play DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra, the same guys you would have trusted anyway.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with all that. You're playing your stars. A guy, I guess, is a sleeper is Kirk Cousins. After a pitiful performance, I would play Kirk Cousins, and I think Jared Goff's a sneaky play as well. Ravens at Patriots. J.K. Dobbins' knee is set to make his debut, and Jacoby Myers' knee is questionable. He's limited on Friday. Let's just talk about these 2 points for this game. Are you playing J.K. Dobbins today if you have him on a team?
No.
I'm not playing him either. I don't trust him. I hope you have better options out there. If you don't, that's a problem. It's probably dealt with for 3 weeks, but I would not be comfortable playing J.K. Dobbins. As for Jacoby Myers, I really liked him this week. I really did. The Ravens have given up a lot of points to wide receivers. Jacoby Myers had like 12 targets. The injury worries me, though. I'd keep him on your bench. But if you're in like a 12, 14-man league, I would flex Jacoby Myers if he plays because he does have a really, really good matchup. Okay. Nick can stay until 10 a.m. He's going to the Jets game today. So if you guys have more questions, we'll keep answering them. We're going to go through the rest of these games. But yeah, keep asking those questions, guys. We'll be happy to answer them. Knicks Bengals. The Bengals at Knicks Jets. Hayden Hurst has a groin injury, is questionable but should play. Corey Davis had a knee injury, is limited Thursday and Friday. He's questionable, but I think he's going to play. You're going to the game, Nick. Who's your MVP? Who's your bust? Who's your boom?
MVP, best rookie wide receiver in the world at the moment, it is Garrett Wilson. He saw a much increased timeshare on the field. Week 1, he did not see the field much. Week 2, he saw the field a lot, and he produced. I think he had 30 fantasy points in the game. He was an absolute monster. He was a machine. He looked like Justin Jefferson in week 3 2 years ago. I'm not saying he's going to be Justin Jefferson, but I'm saying when the Jets offense is passing 50 times a game, you have to trust the wide receiver one over there, who so far has looked like Garrett Wilson. My bust on the week, I'll probably go with either Michael Carter or Breece Hall. I can't see them maintaining 2 running backs that are this productive. I mean, they're putting up Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt type of stat line for the first 2 weeks. That's not going to be sustainable for a Jets offense that's not playing with the lead, that's playing from behind, that is passing the ball a lot. So both of these guys are going to need to see 5 catches and touchdown upside to deliver monster weeks. I can't see them maintaining that, so I would go with that for the bust. And my sleeper, I guess he's not really a sleeper, but it would be T. Higgins. He hasn't really boomed too much in week 1 or week 2, but with Sauce on Jamar Chase all game, they're going to have big upside for the big touchdown, but they're going to have to rely on short checkdowns. That offensive line is not that good, and that's where T. Higgins' role is on those 10-yard curls, 15-yard in and out routes. Like, that's his role. That's where he'll see production.
For me, my MVP is going to be Joe Burrow. He's been a top 12 fantasy quarterback the last 2 weeks. I think he gets in the top 10 this week against the Jets defense that's not very good. This is the get-right game for the Bengals. I have them in my survivor pool. If they don't win this one, and if they don't look good in this one, there's a lot of problems going on in Cincinnati. My bust is Joe Flacco. He's been actually a top 10 fantasy quarterback. No, hold on. He's been like a top 10 fantasy quarterback on the season or something like that. Like his fantasy stats are pretty good. I'm going to have to look them up for you right now just to talk about why he's
616 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception.
He's the 11th best fantasy quarterback on the season, so please do not play Joe Flacco. Like, there has to be a better option for you. Don't play Joe Flacco. My sleeper, Michael Carter. I'm liking Michael Carter more and more, and I'm wishing I drafted him more and more. Playing a lot like a PPR back. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him.
I agree with you, Andy Caps.
Okay. All right. Bengals going to lose. Jets make 75% of survivor pool people lose these last 2 years in a row. No. I need to act. I can't have this happen to me again. Not like last year. Last year
don't ride it.
What other game am I riding?
That's a good question. Let's take a look.
I almost did the Raiders against Tennessee, but I feel like that's also.
How about the Vikings? Actually, the Lions could upset.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of trap games. This is the game to get the Bengals out of the way. The Jets aren't starting 2-1. They beat the Browns
in the greatest comeback in.
They should have lost too. They needed a miraculous
the
comeback.
Super Bowl.
All right. I'm gonna move on to Chiefs over Colts. I don't want to waste the Chiefs yet.
Colts have a shot to upset this week. 93% of bettors have 6.5, and then the line moved to 5.5. Vegas knows something we don't know.
In the Chiefs game?
Yep.
Interesting. Let's go to the Eagles and the Commanders. Who's a bust, an MVP, and a sleeper.
The MVP to me is clear. It's AJ Brown. It's Jalen Hurts. It's those two absolute studs. Those guys are a monster duo. You're going to see a lot more of what you saw in week 1 than you did in week 2. AJ Brown, week 1, posted up a monster stat line. Week 2, good stat line, not great. And week 3 against the Commanders. You want to know who the Commanders faced in week 1 and week 2? Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we are praising, and Christian Kirk, who scored 18 fantasy points without finding the end zone. The Eagles have a better offense and will most likely find the end zone multiple times. I think you get a 30-point bomb from A.J. Brown in this one. My busts, I know Nick doesn't like the take because he's high on these two guys, but it's pretty much all of the Washington receivers, especially Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson. The role that what they are doing fantasy-wise is phenomenal. But this Eagles team just shut down Justin Jefferson. You cannot tell me they're not going to find a way to shut down Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and those guys over there. My sleeper of the game is still going to be Antonio Gibson. I think people are still overlooking him. He's had 2 very productive fantasy weeks. He's had 2 monster workloads without finding the end zone. He's literally put up Christian McCaffrey type numbers without finding the end zone. That's the kind of stat line you want from a running back that you drafted in the 5th round. I think he's still a sleeper to a lot of people.
All right. Question from Ryan. Morning, guys. Morning to you as well. I need a flex in PPR. Sterling Shepard, J.K. Dobbins, or Rashad Penny? I think I'll go with Sterling Shepard. I think the Giants have to throw the ball a bit. That's the wide receiver 1 over there for Daniel Jones, divisional matchup on Monday night. Rashad Penny has a decent matchup today, but I don't trust him yet. Like, I need to see. I've seen Sterling Shepard have good enough games for me to trust him. I haven't seen it from Penny. And as for J.K. Dobbins, I think he's on a snap count today. Tough matchup against the Patriots. The injury was definitely more serious than we thought it was. I need to see it from Dobbins and Penny. If this was my team, I would start Shepard, knowing that Dobbins and Penny could outscore him, and I wouldn't be mad about that. I wouldn't sit there and say to myself, man, I should have started them. I'd sit there and say, well, you know what? Now I can trust them going forward. That's kind of how I view it. Everybody's view is going to be a little bit different on that.
I'm going with Shepard as well. Week 1, he was not fully healthy. He did not assume the wide receiver 1 role. He only saw 4 targets, and he saw a big touchdown, which made his week. In week 2, when he was fully healthy, 10 targets, and for full PPR format, that's phenomenal. That's he had 6 catches on those, so that's 6 catches right there. And he's got a lot more upside to score a touchdown against this Dallas defense than he did against that Panthers defense.
All right. From Nick Day, hey guys, what's going on? CeeDee Lamb or Drake London? This is
you
a
know
really
my
good
take
one.
on this one.
This is a really, really good one.
CeeDee Lamb and you start Drake London.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning this way. CD hasn't shown me enough to really show I could comfortably start him, even though he's the wide receiver 1 on his team and you drafted him around 2 or 3. Drake London has. So if you're looking for a guy for high ceiling, start Drake London. I think he's got a really high ceiling against Seattle today. However, CD's a star, and I usually say play your stars. So if you want to play your star, play CD. But if you want somebody who I think has higher upside, I'll say that CD is the safer floor. I think CD is good for 12 points. But I think Drake London is good for somewhere between 10 and 20 points. What did CD score last week?
Good for that.
In PPR. What did CD score last week?
He scored 15.
Yeah, so I'm saying he's good for 10 points. CD Lamb is good for 10 points.
Floor.
CD Lamb is good for 10 or 12. I think Drake London's good for somewhere between 10 and 20.
I think London has the safer floor. They're both seeing pretty much the same workload. And London's being more productive, has had more upside of touchdowns in multiple weeks. The Atlanta offense is somehow rolling, and it's through Drake London. So I'm still trusting him, especially going up against Seattle versus CeeDee Lamb with Cooper Rush, where on his third down read, it's not to CeeDee Lamb. On his touchdown read, it is to Noah Brown. So they are not. He is not trusting CeeDee Lamb the same way Dak did. Until Dak is back, I'm fading CeeDee Lamb as much as I can.
All right. From Yee, we got Yeezy in the chat here. Pick 2, Cortland Sutton, Cooks. I'm assuming it's Brandon Cooks or Curtis Samuel, PPR. Brandon Cooks has the best matchup of the 3, so I'm going to start Brandon Cooks. Cortland Sutton has a better matchup than Curtis Samuel. Samuel's been great so far this season. I like him on the season now. I think Carson Wentz is going to throw to him a lot this season. With that said, Eagles defense is really tough. I didn't get to give my take on it. Nick gave his take. They just held Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen to both less than 10 fantasy points. So in this one, I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton and Brandon Cooks. London did have 25 last week, Stanley. London had a great game.
Yes, he did. He's
Cortland,
a beast.
Sutton and Cooks. Thank you for the question. All right, from Fat Golfer. All right. Carson Wentz is currently the 3rd highest scoring quarterback in my league, so I picked him up. Should I start him over Stafford today? Nope. Put Carson Wentz on your bench. Good pickup, but a tough matchup against the Eagles. Just held Kirk Cousins to 3 interceptions and less than 10 fantasy points and lost me a matchup. Stafford has a great game against Arizona. Allowed, I believe.
I think they have allowed the most points to the quarterback.
Yeah, Arizona's allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to quarterbacks, which they're actually the 2nd because Cleveland's won and they just played. So Arizona's allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Great matchup for Stafford. Start Stafford this week.
Absolutely agree.
Thank you for that question. That's a good one. All right, let's move on to Eagles Commanders. I want to give you my MVP, my bust, and my sleeper. My MVP every single week for the Eagles is gonna be Jalen Hurts. However, the Commanders have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. I am on the Miles Sanders train. I have hopped on the engine. I'm in the caboose. I'm on like the cheapest seat, but I'm on the Miles Sanders train for this week. He's had back-to-back weeks with over 12 plus fantasy points. Great matchup against the Commanders. He was in my boom team this week. Start Miles Sanders. He'll be your MVP. Or maybe Hurts is my MVP. My sleeper's Miles Sanders. As for a bust, Terry McLaurin. Last year against the Eagles, Terry McLaurin. 6 points and 8 points. Not great. Bench Terry McLaurin this week. You have to have a better option out there. All right, we got about 5 or 6 more games to run through. It's 9:30. We're going to go for another maybe 10, 15 minutes. Keep asking those questions, guys. Saints at Panthers. Alvin Kamara ribs is questionable to play. Christian McCaffrey ankle was removed from the injury report. He's good to go. For me, and I want to go sleeper first. I'm going to go with Chris Olave. His targets went up last week. Another touchdown. He could start out-snapping Jarvis Landry pretty soon. He's a sleeper for me this week. I think I'm going to start him this week over Darnell Mooney in a league. He's a sleeper. My MVP in this one, I think I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. He looked better last week. You drafted him in round 1. I think he looks better this week. He will continue to look better. My bust is Kamara for the sake of the DJ Moore, actually. I'm not going to say Kamara because DJ Moore was on my bust team. We spoke about him. DJ Moore last year against New Orleans, 12 points and 8 points. Not great numbers. Hasn't been great this year, and Baker's looked horrendous. So that's who I'm going with. Who's your MVP, your bust, and your sleeper?
I mean, you nailed it. CMC, MVP. Bust would be Alvin Kamara / DJ Moore, and my sleeper is Chris Olave. You hit it right on the head.
All right. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. Jaguars at Chargers. This is where it gets a little bit tricky because Justin Herbert is questionable with his ribs. He should play, but he's not 100%. He's planning on taking a pain-killing shot, or at least deciding if he's going to take that pain-killing shot before the game. It's the same shot that sent and the same shot and the same doctor that sent Tyrod Taylor to the hospital, and was the reason that that Herbert actually started early on in his career. So my first question for you, Nick, is are you actually going to play Justin Herbert? He's in a 4 o'clock game, and there's a chance that he actually doesn't play or has a bad game.
Justin Herbert's out there. I'm playing him. I'm not too concerned. There's other guys with better matchups, yeah, but Jacksonville, Justin Herbert, probably Keenan Allen, and definitely Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer. There's so many weapons that can bail him out everywhere on the field, and it's against a pitiful defense. I'm trusting him. If he's out there, he's too talented of a player where you say, I'm going to bench him and pivot to a Carson Wentz or Jared Goff or a Tua. Like, I'd rather play Justin Herbert over pretty much every single one of those guys.
I would play like Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff.
Cousins, I would debate, but I would still lean towards Herbert. I'd lean into talent.
But what if he doesn't play? Like, what's your?
If he doesn't play, then yeah, you're playing. Then Cousins.
But you're not going to know until 4 o'clock. Is what I'm saying. You're not going to know until 3 o'clock. You have to make your decision like now, unless you're picking up Cooper Rush off of waivers.
You want to know who I would play from the later slots? I'd play Marcus Mariota. I think he's a sneaky play this week.
I think he's a sneaky play too. That's a good one. All right, moving on.
And he's definitely on your waiver wire.
Yep. Keenan Allen missed last week with a hamstring injury. He's questionable and should play practice each day this week. So who's your MVP, your MVP, your sleeper, and your bust?
My MVP in this one is going to be a guy I've been riding all year long. It's Christian Kirk. He's assumed so much of a target share in that offense. I think he has 18 targets through 2 weeks. I think he has close to 200 yards on the year. I think he has 1 or 2 touchdowns last week, which made him a monster play. I love Kirk. I think he's a good play. I wasn't high on him too far before the season, but after week 1, you saw the target share, you saw the workload, you saw Trevor Lawrence loved him and wants to keep going to him. So I do like him this week. I like him pretty much every week. For a bust, I'm going with Mike Williams. I think if Keenan Allen is there, Keenan Allen is assuming that wide receiver 1 role once again. I know that we want Mike Williams to be the breakout and to be the wide receiver 1 over there. I do too. Trust me, but Keenan Allen has demanded so much workload. In week 2, when Allen left, they didn't look to Mike Williams that often. He only had 4 targets, and in the game Allen was out, Mike Williams saw his most productive fantasy days. I actually saw a stat where in games where Keenan Allen doesn't play, Mike Williams averages 25 fantasy points per game on 8 targets for 80-plus yards. So that's massive upside there, but with Keenan Allen there, his numbers have been statistically a lot worse. And my sleeper is Gerald Everett. I think he's a good play. I think he's a great plug. I picked him up over Cole Kmet, and I feel great about that. I picked him up after week 1. I think he should be started in most lineups. I know we saw the pick 6 that was going his way, but all you saw was Justin Herbert trust that tight end position.
I'm going to get my take real quick and then answer these questions. My MVP is actually going to be Mike Williams. Great week last week. I think he is the wide receiver 1 over there. I don't think Keenan Allen's coming in there and taking it from him. Mike Williams was the wide receiver 1 over there through like 10 weeks, and then he got hurt last year. I think he's the wide receiver 1. I think he assumes that role. I think he has a great week for you. My sleeper in this one is Trevor Lawrence. Like, if you picked him up, and he's been very efficient. He's looked great through the first 2 weeks, but tough Chargers defense. I'm not trusting Trevor Lawrence in a deep league or as a streamer. My sleeper, I think Everett's a good one. Good call on Gerald Everett. All right, from Fat Golfer again, Marquise Brown or injured James Conner in my flex spot. So a lot of fantasy analysts are actually predicting Marquise Brown to have a boom week. Because the Rams defense has given up the second or third most points to wide receivers. I'm not going to play the matchup in this one because I don't love going against Jalen Ramsey. I'm going to play James Conner.
I'm the one that's been low on Marquise Brown all year. I think I'd rather play him here. Jalen Ramsey has not been able to keep up with efficiency and the deep ball, and Kyler Murray is buying so much time. I know they have Aaron Donald up there, but you saw last week him create 20 seconds in and running around the pocket for himself. Like, he's going to be able to do that, and Marquise Brown will be able to get open deep.
All right. Quick note, Tyler, I see your question about quarterbacks. Let us know who your quarterbacks are on your waiver wire. You said, should you play Geno? Well, please let us know who else is available for you to play before we answer that question. From my brother, if Julio plays, how confident can I be playing him? I'm not confident. I don't know who else you got over there, but I'm not confident in playing Julio. I'm not comfortable playing any of those Bucs receivers. Tom Brady's like injured his throwing hand. Not injured enough to where he's going to play terribly, but I think you could have better options. He says, would love to play him over either Hollywood or A-Rob because they're at 4:00. You are shot, in my opinion. And I'm speaking like this because he's my brother, by the way. Joe, come on, dude. Let's play Allen Robinson or Hollywood over Julio Jones. And if Julio's a big game, then you know what? I'm wrong on that. But Allen Robinson, I think, is going to get guaranteed workload. He almost had 2 touchdowns last week. That second one getting called back was ridiculous. It shouldn't have happened. I would play Allen Robinson, then I'd play Hollywood, and then I'd look to the waiver wire, and then I'd play Julio.
I disagree. I think I'm trusting Julio if he's out on that field. He's the wide receiver 1 over there. No Godwin. Mike Evans is suspended. The Packers secondary has looked incredibly susceptible to the passing game. You want to know the game where they didn't look susceptible? When Justin Fields threw 11 times when they were playing from behind. Tom Brady's smart enough not to do that. He's going to go to Julio. Who's
your backup, though? Like Joe needs a backup then, because Julio's a true game time decision at 4:00.
Noah Brown on Monday night.
All right.
I would play him over the other 2 if he's out there, obviously.
Nick Day says James Robinson could be a good play. Chargers rushing D is lacking. Yeah, I think you're right on that. I'm on the James Robinson train. Could definitely be a good play. From Tommy Reed, pick 3, half PPR: Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Carter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one I'm going to say is Devontae Smith. I was high on him going into the season. He had that goose egg week 1, but last week I think he had 8 receptions for like 80 yards. Just didn't get in the end zone. I think Devontae Smith has a good matchup against the Commanders this week. So let's lock in Devontae Smith as 1. Jerry Jeudy's playing at night, which worries me. I want to lock in Jerry Jeudy, but he plays at night. I'm definitely not playing Nelson Aguilar, by the way. Michael Carter, I like him a lot. Tony Pollard looked good against the Bengals last week. I think Michael Carter plays that role, so let's lock in Michael Carter. As for a third one, now I'm between Rashad Bateman or banking on Jerry Jeudy playing. Nick said he's good to go. Schefter's saying he's probable. I think we'll go with Jerry Jeudy because I think he has the higher upside, whereas Rashad Bateman has a tough matchup against New England.
I agree. Devontae and Jerry Jeudy are the 2 that I think I'd lock in if you had to play 2. A half PPR is kind of hurting my case because if it were full PPR, I'd say Michael Carter, lock him in because he could see 10, 15 targets, no problem. But you need yards, and I don't love Bateman this week, but in a half PPR format, I think I would rather ride with the upside of the big bomb touchdown, which is made as week 1 and week 2.
All right. Tyler, I still want to know the other quarterbacks you could play. If Herbert is out, should I play Geno Smith or someone later? I'd play someone later. I'm trying to think of who else could be. Oh, here we go. Goff that plays at 11 or Daniel Jones or Cooper Rush. I like playing Jared Goff because I don't trust Herbert with the injury and if he even plays. Nick has a different opinion, but I personally would play Jared Goff.
I would play Herbert, and if you have to pivot, I don't know if Mariota's on your waiver wire, but I would rather trust him.
Yeah, Mariota's a good option too. Let us know if Mariota's on your waiver wire. Can I speak to Ohtani's greatest season ever and how he deserves MVP? Nope. Judge to the moon. You're very welcome. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Hopefully we helped you with your week a little bit. Again, we do the show Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Those aren't live, but we record them and you can listen to them as early as 8 a.m. on those weekdays. And the live show is every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. From Joe again, need one of Thielen, Devontae Smith, or Aguilar. Don't like Aguilar this week. We're getting a lot of Aguilar questions, but I just feel like he's really, really boomer bust. And a lot of guys that are being mentioned to me in Aguilar questions are a little more safe.
Even with no Jacoby Myers, you don't like him?
No, because I think Jacoby Myers is still going to suit up.
Okay.
And Kendrick Bourne's still over there too. And
Devontae Parker.
Yeah. And Devontae Parker. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Aguilar's not a good option for the Pats, even if a Pats player was a good option. You're on a team that doesn't have good options, and now you're giving me a bad option on a team that has bad options. For this question, though, I just love Devontae Smith after last week. I love what I saw. I love the Eagles spreading the ball. I love he basically plays every snap. He's wide receiver 2 on a team that's going to score 40 points a week, 30 points a week. I would go with Devontae Smith, even though Adam Thielen does a very high red zone percentage chance. So
I would go with Thielen here. I think he's almost guaranteed a touchdown in this matchup. 30 plus points. He's been the go-to red zone threat for the better part of 5 years. I would trust Thielen in this matchup. I think Smith's the number 2. I wouldn't even question Aguilar.
Okay. Stanley's in a 10-man league. It's PPR, no defense. I'm in a 12-man with no defense, and it's great. I hate defenses. Falcons at Seahawks. Me and Nick will probably have the same MVP, Drake London. Seahawks defense is not great against wide receivers. He's at top 10 wide receiver weeks the back 2 weeks. So I'll go with Drake London. Actually, no, I should. You're gonna say Drake London. I should probably say DK, but I said Drake London already.
I agree with Drake.
My sleeper in this one, you know what? I want to say DK or Pitts. So I'm going to say both of them. Both of them are facing bad defenses. Falcons are giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers through the first 2 weeks. They've given up 10 plus fantasy points to 3 wide receivers on both of those games. Play DK Metcalf. As for Kyle Pitts, if he's the guy that's going to get involved, this is the day to do it. Play Kyle Pitts. He has to get involved against a bad Seahawks defense. A bust. I still just don't like Rashad Penny in that rushing attack from the Seahawks. He's a bust to me.
I agree. I'm going with the target leader over in Seattle, Tyler Lockett. That's the guy I'm locking in my lineup as my sleeper. Okay. And then for my bust, I'm still riding Kyle Pitts. I don't trust him. I saw a great opinion on a great theory as to why Kyle Pitts isn't being used, and it's because Arthur Smith is obviously playing against him every single week in his fantasy matchups. Like 9 other players are just trading him to where he has to face, so Pitts has a bad year. That's my opinion on him.
Tyler says Mariota is available, but he plays the Seahawks. So the Seahawks aren't a good defense, so I would trust Mariota. Tyler, can you do us a favor? Can you tell us who's available on your waiver wire? Give us like the top 5 quarterbacks that are available. I'm assuming it's Mariota, Cooper Rush, Daniel Jones,
I think you said Jared Goff too.
Geno, Goff. Can you give us like 5 names that are on your waiver wire, and we'll tell you what we would do at that point. Speaking of Jared Goff, Scott Green, Jared Goff, or Aaron Rodgers full PPR?
Love this question.
This is awesome. I love it. I'm so low on Aaron Rodgers this year. I love this question. I don't think he was a top 10. Was he a top 12 quarterback last week? I don't think he was.
No.
He wasn't. Jared Goff. Go play Jared Goff over Aaron Rodgers. I get to really crap on Rodgers. This is great. This is a running football team. I don't know who Rodgers is throwing to this week. We're going to talk about that game in a second, but I think I would play Jared Goff. He's posted back-to-back weeks with as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Now he has the Vikings, just allowed Jalen Hurts to have a really great week against them. I'm going to play Jared Goff. He's going to throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown 50 times.
As I've been saying, forget the name, predict the production. I can't see any quarterback having massive production, especially with no good receiving option against that Tampa Bay defense. I would also go with Jared Goff. I don't want to go with Jared Goff, but I think if I take the name out, predict the production, I think Jared Goff has a lot more upside to be more productive than Aaron Rodgers will.
When the NFL made this schedule, they thought they were getting a week 3 star-studded matchup between two of the best quarterbacks ever, and Brady and Rodgers may combine for like 20 fantasy points if they're lucky. They're both sits. That's the reality of it. From Joe again, if Jacobs is out, should I play Khalil Herbert, Hillard, or someone else off the waiver wire? Well, you got to tell me who's on your waiver wire, but between those two, I would play Khalil Herbert. I'm in a similar situation, Joe, and I'm Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pivot off either of those other two. Who else is on your waiver at running back?
Yeah,
I assume it's your RB2.
Yep, let us know.
You should trade Travis Kelce to me for running back. That's what
Joey, you'll get to your question.
As I
said. Joey, we'll get to your question in 1 second. Nick Day says, I have Herbert. Sounds like I might be firing up Mariota with London. Yeah, and that's a 4 p.m. game too. So if Herbert doesn't play, Mariota's a great backup option. So it's good to have a guy in your 4 o'clock slot. From Joey, looks like that's a lacrosse picture. That's cool. Starter sit, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 10-team PPR. Tyreek Hill, we're going to lock him in. So there's 1 wide receiver. Now we're choosing between 2 more. Drake London, Curtis Samuel, Garrett Wilson, Rashad Bateman, really good options.
Easy.
We've talked about Drake London the entire show. If you didn't hear it yet, the Seahawks defense is bad. Drake London's been a top 10 fantasy wide receiver the last 2 weeks. Tyreek and Drake London are locked in. So now we got to pick 1 more.
Easy.
We've been against Rashad Bateman the entire show. So let's stick with that.
Easy.
I think me and Nick are both going to go Garrett Wilson here.
Easy. Let's go.
I love Curtis Samuel for the rest of the season. He's going to get a lot of targets, but that Eagles defense is stingy. I give Garrett Wilson a slight edge, but if he played Curtis Samuel, I wouldn't knock you for it. All right. Tyler, we're still waiting to hear what other quarterbacks are on your waiver wire, but I think we're both liking Mariota if Herbert doesn't play. Let's go to the Rams at the Cardinals. Rondale Moore is not playing. Hamstring. He's out. It's been a couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to play until Hopkins gets back, and he's not going to be fantasy relevant this year. James Conner's ankle injury is a game-time decision. He's been limited all week. He is expected to play, but we'll test it pregame. MVP, bust, sleeper.
MVP, it's Cooper Kupp. The Cardinals have allowed the most fantasy points to opposing. I don't know if it's quarterbacks or wide receivers. It's one of the two. And they're going to continue to allow that. So I am absolutely riding the hot hand there. I'm riding Cooper Kupp MVP. He's going to show why he should have been the first player off your fantasy draft boards this week. My sleeper is Hollywood Brown. He has not looked good so far, and I know the fear is of Jalen Ramsey, but Kyler Murray does buy time for himself. I know it's a tough front 7 he has to face. And Hollywood Brown with 7-8 seconds is going to get open for a deep ball against Ramsey. It's going to happen. Kyler Murray will hit him deep. And my bust on the week, I would go with James Conner. I'm not sure how much I trust that running game out there in Arizona. I did pick up Darrell Williams in 2 or 3 leagues because I thought Conner might be out, and I don't like James Conner, a power back with no passing game, going up against Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner up the middle.
Okay. Nick does have to go in about 8 minutes. He's going to the Jets game today, so we're going to prioritize questions for the rest of the show. If we have questions, we're going to answer them on the spot. We do have 2 or 3 games we wanted to get to, but if we don't get to them, that's okay. We want to answer your questions. That's a priority. Here we got a question. Tyler Higbee, Logan Thomas, or TJ Hockenson, and would you flex Michael Carter? I need to know your other flex options, but my initial thought is yes. I think he plays that Tony Pollard role against the Bengals. Tony Pollard had 20 fantasy points against the Bengals last week. As for your tight end, this is so easy. Me and Nick will definitely agree on this one. Tyler Higbee. He leads the league in targets for tight ends. I think he had a touchdown last week. I think he's good for like 5 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown today.
Real quick, I agree with you entirely. We have a question on Twitter, so I don't want to miss it.
Yeah, let's do that one. Yep.
DK, Lockett, Thielen, Julio, pick 2.
Do we know the name of the Twitter user? Just curious.
It is at the Vic Macias.
Oh, that's my buddy Vic. What's up,
there you
Vic?
go.
What did he say? It's DK, Julio, and who else?
DK, Julio, Thielen, Lockett.
All right. Pick 2. DK to the moon. This is the DK game against the Falcons. I've spoke about it the entire show. Falcons have given up 10 plus fantasy points to 3 wide receivers each week. Go at DK. As for your second one, Thielen's getting in the end zone today. Play Thielen. I would bench Julio because I don't know if he's actually going to play, and that's kind of tough to wait on. And I would bench Lockett because I think DK is a better game than him.
I'll ride with Nick on this one.
You're welcome, my friend. We appreciate it. We do the show every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time is the live, and the other shows are during the week. Bunch of questions here. Thank you, guys. We appreciate this. Devontae's from Reen24. Devontae Smith, Traylon Burks, or Noah Brown, full PPR. Love Devontae Smith. Love his production last week. I think it's only going to go higher throughout the season.
I think you have 3 great stashes right there. I think Smith right
Yeah,
now in the first
yep.
few weeks is the must start.
Yep, these are good stashes. JD McKissick, a bad play if Jacobs sits? No. I like JD McKissick this week if Jacobs is going to sit. Should get a lot of passing down work. It seemed like week 1, Antonio Gibson would be the 3-down back, but then week 2, McKissick started to get more of the passing work. So I like this play because the running back position is thin.
I don't think he's a bad play, but I think there are other better plays. If you have other options, then you could drop them.
Yeah, Nick, drop us your other options if you can. All right, Tyler, we can finally
You
answer
can
your
pace
question.
yourself. Don't worry. I got some extra time. Don't
You
worry.
sure? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Tyler. This is your answer here for Justin Herbert or one of these quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota, Jared Goff, Tannehill, Geno Smith, Cooper Rush, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, or Trevor Lawrence. If you want to play somebody in the early window, which means you definitely won't play Herbert, I'm going with Jared Goff. If you want to wait and see if Herbert plays, I like Marcus Mariota or Daniel Jones.
I completely agree.
All right. From Joe, his running back options. I got to see exactly who he was going with. Oh, Khalil Herbert or Hillard. Burkhead, McKissick, Hines, McKinnon, Moss, Eno Benjamin, Bolden, who I would start if Jacobs is out. So it sounds like you're starting Brandon Bolden. It sounds like that's who you want to start. If not, I think I'll play McKissick or Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, go McKissick. I think you need to trade for running back depth. And that's not just saying trade to me. I'm saying in general.
Joe, come on. Not even answering that. I saw Mets and I'm not even looking at it. I traded Thielen and Stevenson for Pollard. I have Debo, AJ Brown, and DK for main wide receivers for running backs. I have Derrick Henry and Darrell Henderson and ETN. Who won the trade? It's pretty even. I mean, I would need to see his team too, because your 2 running backs are kind of boomer bust, and Thielen's been boomer bust so far this season. I would say it's pretty even. I don't have a winner per se. Especially with Zeke out, I'd give you a slight edge because Pollard's the running back 1 right now over there.
I agree. I think it's like a fair trade, but if Pollard doesn't take over, or if Zeke is there and healthy all year, doesn't miss any time, which he hasn't done in his career, Pollard's going to be like a very questionable start most weeks for you. Where I think Thielen, I would have rather had the depth there. But I do think you could trade Pollard to the Zeke owner, maybe get the handcuff there and try and flip it into another flex play.
Okay. All right. From Joey again. Do I start Goddard or Logan Thomas at tight end this week?
Ooh, I like this one.
Washington's the better defense when it comes to tight ends. The Eagles give up a little bit more points to tight ends. However, I do see the Eagles scoring more points. That means more touchdown upside, more opportunities. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert in this one.
I would go with Goddard too. I think you have 2 great tight ends, though. I think
so too.
I like Logan Thomas before the year. I like him now. As he's getting healthier, they're going to look to implement him more. You saw the talent last week on display. I like the play. I think you should stash him. But Goddard, absolutely. With so much touchdown upside, you have to play Goddard for now.
All right. Scott Green, flex, need 2. James Connors, I think it's James Conner, I'm assuming. Traylon Burks, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, or Hollins, need 2. I'm going to put James Conner in there. You drafted him early. I think you just got to trust your star in that one. As for your second one, I think I'll put MVS for the touchdown or big play upside.
I'd go with Connor as well, but I think I'd take Traylon Burks here. I think he's going to have a breakout week 3. I love stashing him, like if you have the depth too, but if you have to start him, play Burks, trust him. He's demanding the wide receiver 1 role over there. They are playing from behind in what feels like every single game, and Derrick Henry hasn't been productive enough where they can afford to just give him the ball 30 times and go rush for 200 yards. Like he's not showing the ability to do that anymore. So take Traylon Burks, expect him to be the wide receiver 1 over there. Ride the upside, but I agree with Nick. If you need a big boom, go with MVS because he's got so much upside for a 50, 60, even an 80-yard touchdown.
Okay. Next, from Che Ambrose. Yo, boys, it's your homie from Wyoming. Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson this week. He's up there on my wall. He's not in my starting lineup in 2 leagues. I don't like the matchup against the 49ers. He wins a lot of games from a fantasy standpoint. I don't really love the matchup. I love Matt Stafford's matchup going up against the Rams, going up against a Cardinals team that's given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So let's go with Matt Stafford in this one.
I agree. I'm taking Stafford. Russell Wilson, you have to leave on the bench until Nathaniel Hackett shows better play.
Yeah, you can't be riding with him. That Whatever he's riding, and whether it's a truck or whatever, it's broken. It needs to be fixed. Will the Ricochet Ferguson be there to celebrate Nick Mangold today?
I hope so. That'd be cool.
All right. From Doodoo Polacris. I don't know how to say that. Sorry, guys. Sup, guys? Should I give Mike Williams plus Ertz and grab Cooks plus Pitts? So you're trading Mike Williams and Ertz to get Brandon Cooks and Kyle Pitts? Nope. You're Mike Williams and Ertz. I'd much rather have them. Mike Williams is going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year. Do not trade Mike Williams.
Yeah, I don't see you upgrading at either position. So I would keep your options for now. If you do, I don't hate the idea of moving Mike Williams, but Pitts and Cooks, that would not be the duo I would want in return.
Okay. From Triple Cross, start Mike Thomas or DJ Moore. 100% Mike Thomas. If I'm in 100 leagues, I'm starting Mike Thomas in 100 leagues. DJ Moore is a bad matchup. Didn't play well last year against New Orleans in 2 games, only 12 points and 6 points respectively. He hasn't looked good this year. Mike Thomas has looked good this year. They'll play Michael Thomas. McKissick is my only option if Jacob sits. Guys like Bolden, Gainwell, Kenny Drake on waivers. Yeah, play McKissick. He's not a bad option. Yeah. Brooks or Devontae Smith at wide receiver? Devontae Smith. I love Devontae Smith this year. Loved what he did last week. Think it was a breakout game. He's only going to go higher from here. He has a chance to get 8 targets every week, a touchdown every week. A chance at least. You're not going to have one every week, but he has a chance. So I would go with Devontae Smith.
I agree.
All right, from Deshaun again. Do I rock with Zach Ertz or still try to trade for an upgrade with Penny and Devontae Smith? I would try to upgrade if you can. I would go for Kyle Pitts at this point. Especially if he has a bad game today, I'd still go and try to get Kyle Pitts. Aside from that, look at your waiver wire if Tyler Higbee's there or Gerald Everett. But yeah, I would try to trade. But Zach Ertz isn't a bad tight end. Not a bad option at all.
I agree.
Back to Che Ambrose, full PPR. Keenan Allen, Marquise Brown, or Alan Lazard. Can only play one? Che, if we could only play one, I'm going with Keenan Allen. I don't love the injury, but I also don't love Marquise Brown's matchup against Jalen Ramsey. And I don't really want to play a Packers wide receiver. I'll go with Keenan Allen.
Yep, I agree.
From Triple Crown, Drake London or Garrett Wilson. We've been talking about this the entire show, but this might be tougher for Nick, but Drake London to the moon today. He's going to have a big game against Seattle. Play Drake London.
I love starting both this week, but I'm not going to let my fandom get in between. I would take London.
You're welcome, Triple Cross. Thank you so much for the questions.
I got one Twitter question over here.
Yeah, who's it
from Jay Jetta's season, start Juju or Damian Harris at flex?
Juju. Damian Harris looked good last week, but I think Juju has a good chance and he's right there. Yep, there we go. Thanks for joining the YouTube. Just wanted to make sure I got the question. We appreciate that. That is some dedication going to the YouTube and asking the Twitter question. Start Juju. I think Juju has higher upside in terms of yards, receptions, and touchdowns. Yeah, so go with Juju. All right, no, all right. I'm gonna run through these last 2 games very quickly. Packers at Bucks. We've run out of time, really. My doggy is just gotcha day, and he needs a nice grooming, so I'm gonna be a little late for that. Packers at Bucks. Sammy Watkins is on the IR. Christian Watson has a hamstring injury. Didn't practice for the last 2 days this week. Was questionable. He's unlikely to play. So now for the Packers wide receivers, Randall Cobb is expected to go. Alan Lazard's ankle, good to go. LaFleur said if Romeo Doubs is going to have to take more, or Dobbs, it will have to take more of a load this week. As for the Bucks, Rashad Perriman and Russell Gage are expected to play. Julio's a true game time decision. Leonard Fournette's a hamstring injury expected to play. Real quick, just give me any notes you have on the game. For me, it's going to be a big Leonard Fournette and Aaron Jones game, and A.J. Dillon. I would play all the running backs and expect a good amount of points from them. As for the quarterbacks, bench them both. Brady and Rodgers, I don't care about the name. They haven't played well this season, and I think there's much better fantasy options out there. As for all the receivers, I wouldn't play any of them. I have no confidence in any Bucks or Packers wide receiver, but I do hope we see more of Dobbs today.
I think the MVP of the day is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. They're a lead against running backs, and there is no pass catching option that Aaron Rodgers trusts out there other than Alan Lazard. And Alan Lazard hasn't proven that on 10 targets he's going to be efficient yet. For my bust, it's going to be both the quarterbacks, just like Nick. I'd look to pivot off both of them, and my sleeper is Julio Jones if he's out there.
All right, Joe said Mooney's on my waiver wire. Any reason for me to take a flyer on him? Yeah, take a flyer on him, put him on your bench. Like, I don't think he's a guy who should be on the waiver wire just yet. Nick Day, keeper league. Who's the most droppable? Sky Moore, Rashad White, James Cook. I'm thinking Cook. So how many people can you keep? You could drop that in the chat real quick. I'm going to assume you can keep one so far.
I wouldn't drop any of them yet. I would wait one more week.
Yeah, I would too.
But I would say as of right now, it would be James Cook as well. I think Moore is the one I would want to hold. They used the first round pick on him. Out of any of the receivers there, he's the only one that has the upside to actually monster boom and be Mahomes' wide receiver one for multiple years. Where Brady's going to retire. If Fournette leaves, Rashad Whitey's not really taking over and going to be a monster 3-down back. James Cook looks like the RB3 over there. So, I think Moore is the one you have to hold if it's only one.
All right.
Keep 5.
Maybe keep 5. Cost a draft pick above where you drafted the previous year. I would still keep him for another week. I would love to see more information on your league for sure. That's pretty cool.
That's fun.
Deshaun says, my dad wants to rock A-Rob. I think he's Allen Robinson. Yep. But he's asking if you should pick up Fields and Rodgers. I'm sorry. He wants to rock Rodgers, but he's asking if you should pick up Fields instead and start him. Nope. I'm not touching Justin Fields. He only threw 9 times last week. No Justin Fields in fantasy football.
Yeah, I'm not trusting Fields yet. I don't think he doesn't pass enough. For a mobile quarterback, he does not pass enough to be a monster quarterback. It's why you don't start Jimmy G. Jimmy G can go out there and throw 8 times in a game, and the 49ers can go win by 20.
Yep. I don't like Rodgers, but that's a situation you play him over. Yeah. All right, last game. Just want to get these notes in before we get out of here. Jerry Jeudy shoulder practice Friday. He's questionable. He's expected to play, but it's going to test it pregame. George Kittle with the groin is not listed on the final injury report. I think Kittle's going to have a great game today. I think Debo has a great game. Jeff Wilson could have a tougher game against a tough Denver defense. On the Broncos side, I'm still starting Sutton. I'm still starting Javonte Williams. I'm benching Russell Wilson.
I'm benching Russell Wilson as well. I think Courtland Sutton will be my MVP. I think he's got so much deep ball upside. And my sleeper, I don't know if I really have a sleeper in this one. Yeah, I think you know who you would start, and I don't think there's anyone that you're really going to see a monster boom from.
All right. From KFL Extinct, DK or Jacoby Myers, which one to start? I love Jacoby Myers' matchup this week. I don't love that he didn't practice on Thursday and Wednesday. I also love DK's matchup this week. Play DK Metcalf. Going against a Falcons defense that's allowed 3 wide receivers on each team they face this season to score double-digit fantasy points. Should be a big week for DK Metcalf.
I agree. I'm starting DK as well.
Nick Day, this is really interesting. We keep 5 and franchise tag 1. I would love to hear more about this league. This is really, really cool. This is awesome
send us some info on the league on
Twitter. You can find our social media is PrimeTimeFFPod just about everywhere. Joe, we are going to start a baseball podcast. We're talking all about the Yankees and how great they are.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's our show for this week, guys. Thank you so much to everybody that joined. We went super long, but you know what? You kept asking the questions. We're going to keep answering with them. Really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. Every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We're going to answer all of your questions until you stop answering them or until one of us has to get going. Next time you hear from us, tomorrow, Monday, it's going to be the weekend recap and Monday Night Football preview. You could find that episode on all audio streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcast. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. We do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So please subscribe on Apple, Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. If you like our YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and like our videos and comment and all that other good stuff. One question from my mother: is Judge hitting 61 today? He's hitting 61 and 62.
Yes, sir. That's what I was going to say.
Prime time. Yep. He's going to find a way to get more love on Twitter than the football right now. Thank you guys again. Best of luck in your week 3 matchups. Hopefully we helped. Keep connecting with us on social media. We'll talk to you real soon.